15 years ago, a profound betrayal shattered my world. My ex-boyfriend and my closest friend deceived me, leading to an unexpected pregnancy. The revelation caused my family to sever all ties with me. In response, I made the difficult decision to leave home and completely disconnect from them. Now, after a decade and a half, my mother is urging me to mend the fractured relationships with both my ex-boyfriend and my former best friend. This is a lengthy and emotionally charged story that has significantly shaped my life over the past 15 years. I hope you'll bear with me as I recount these events and their lasting impact on my 33-year-old life. When I was 18, in the midst of my senior year of high school, I was convinced that my life was unfolding perfectly. I lived with my parents and my 4 siblings, 2 brothers aged 23 and 22, a sister who was 20, and a younger sister who was 14. My days were predominantly spent with my best friend, Ashley, who was also 18, and my boyfriend, Kyle, who was 20 and had been my partner for 3 years. Both Ashley and Kyle's parents were best friends with mine, so I had known both of them since we were infants. Our families spent holidays together, celebrated each other's birthdays, and frequently visited one another since we all lived in the same town. Ashley had been my confidant for 18 years. She was the person I trusted implicitly, sharing everything with her. Our parents often joked that we were inseparably bonded, almost as if we were connected by the hip, given how much time we spent together. For the past 3 years, I had been in a serious relationship with Kyle, believing him to be the love of my life and envisioning a future where we would marry. We had even discussed marriage plans to take place after he completed college. At the time, I was content with the idea of being a stay-at-home mom, despite having every intention of attending university. My parents adored Kyle and fully supported our relationship, which contributed to my happiness. It's important to mention that my sister, who was 20, was also dating Kyle's brother, who was 23. Our siblings were all very close, adding to the strong bonds within our extended family network. One day, at the start of the new school year, I noticed that Ashley seemed unusually downcast and detached. After persistent questioning, she revealed that she was pregnant. This news stunned me, as I was unaware that she and her boyfriend had broken up some time ago, and I had no idea she was involved with anyone else. Curious and concerned, I asked her who the father was, but she was reluctant to discuss it, only hinting that it might have been her ex-boyfriend. She was visibly distraught, so I decided to drop the subject and simply offer her comfort. I stood by her side when she informed her family about the pregnancy. Her parents were disappointed, but promised to support her in whatever decision she made regarding the pregnancy. They attempted to coerce her into revealing the father's name, but she steadfastly refused and made me promise to keep the matter confidential. It turned out that Ashley had a boyfriend at one point, but she hadn't disclosed this to her parents. Over the next 9 months, I remained a steadfast presence in Ashley's life. I accompanied her to ultrasounds and doctor's appointments, supported her when she faced bullying at school because of her pregnancy, and helped her set up a nursery. I was there for her during bouts of illness and moments of low spirits. I organized a baby shower, went shopping with her, and even took parenting classes alongside her. We collaboratively chose names for the baby, and she asked me to be present in the delivery room. Throughout her pregnancy, I observed how much it was affecting her both emotionally and physically, and I did everything I could to support her, because she was my best friend, someone who had always been there for me. A couple of weeks before Ashley's due date, I went to the mall to run some errands and unexpectedly encountered her ex-boyfriend. Despite my promise never to contact her again, seeing him and being aware of Ashley's fragile emotional state triggered a surge of anger within me. I confronted him right there in the mall, expressing how hurtful it was that he had left Ashley pregnant and alone, neglecting his responsibility towards the unborn child. He was taken aback and claimed to have no knowledge of what I was talking about, stating that Ashley had never informed him about the pregnancy. When I mentioned that Ashley was 9 months pregnant, he insisted that he couldn't possibly be the father since they had broken up over a year ago, and had not been involved since. Confused by his response, I apologized for losing my temper in public. However, he didn't stop there. He began to say hurtful things and suggested that I might want to ask Kyle, Ashley's longtime friend and my boyfriend, if he was the father. I didn't give much thought to his words initially, as Kyle and Ashley had been lifelong friends, and there had never been any indication that there was anything more between them beyond their close friendship. That evening, my younger sister, who was 14, and I were getting ready for a movie night. I started venting to her about the confrontation with Ashley's ex and what he had said. My sister, who is usually very outspoken, became unusually quiet and didn't respond much to my concerns. After some time, she excused herself to go to the bathroom. I decided to grab some snacks and headed downstairs to the kitchen, only to overhear my younger sister confronting my mother. This part of my memory is somewhat hazy, as I was overwhelmed with emotions at the time. My sister informed our mother about my encounter with Ashley's ex and relayed his suggestion that Kyle might be the father of Ashley's baby. She also revealed that Kyle was indeed the father, something that had been kept hidden from me. I was utterly shocked. Stumbling into the kitchen, I demanded an explanation. Both my mother and sister turned pale upon seeing me, and my sister began to cry uncontrollably. She explained that during the summer break, Kyle and Ashley had attended the same house party, got intoxicated, and ended up sleeping together. Ashley had become pregnant and confided in Kyle, but both of them were too ashamed and frightened to tell me or their parents. Eventually, Ashley couldn't keep the secret any longer and disclosed the situation to her own parents, who then informed Kyle's parents and subsequently mine. This revelation came when Ashley was in her first trimester, and by her second trimester, all of our siblings, as well as Kyle's and Ashley's siblings, were aware of the situation, everyone except for me. The shock of discovering this truth left me feeling physically ill for the next 3 days, rendering me unable to speak to anyone. My parents apologized, explaining that they had kept the secret to protect me from pain and to avoid disrupting the relationships within our families. Despite their apologies, I couldn't bring myself to speak to Kyle or Ashley. They inundated me with messages, calls, and even came to my house, but I refused to see them. At one point, Kyle's mother visited our home, and was allowed by my mother to enter my room while I was bedridden, emotionally drained from the betrayal. She tried to persuade me to forgive them, emphasizing that Ashley and the baby needed my support, but I remained silent. 2 weeks later, Ashley went into labor. I learned from my parents that she had a difficult delivery, losing a significant amount of blood and requiring an emergency C-section. Kyle was reportedly present at the birth. The news devastated me. I was inconsolable because of the betrayal from both Ashley and Kyle. I had been eagerly anticipating being there for Ashley's delivery, and now I couldn't, both physically and emotionally. My older sister immediately rushed to the hospital to support her boyfriend, while my other siblings weren't home, leaving me alone with my parents. All I wanted was to lie in bed or cuddle with my mother and cry out all my pent-up emotions. However, my mother received a call from Ashley's mother, who came to my room to inform me that she and her father were heading to the hospital. When I asked her to stay and support me, she explained that Ashley's parents needed all the help they could get and suggested that we discuss everything later. I tried to express that I also needed their support, but she dismissed my feelings as selfish and left, leaving me alone at home, struggling to comprehend the recent events. Unable to process everything, my sadness eventually transformed into a rage unlike anything I had ever felt before. Consumed by a mix of emotions and a profound sense of betrayal, I began packing my belongings with the intention of leaving home. However, as I was about to depart, doubts crept in, and I found myself sitting in the living room feeling empty and lost. After some time, I received a text from my sister informing me that Ashley had given birth to a healthy baby girl named Sarah. She attached a picture of the newborn and shared that both Ashley and the baby were doing well. Additionally, my sister mentioned that our parents and she were planning to join Ashley's and Kyle's parents to celebrate at a local bar. My memory of that period is quite foggy, likely due to the overwhelming emotions I was experiencing. Eventually, I decided to leave. I took a train and stayed at a hostel in Phoenix for a while, securing a job at a store while planning to complete high school there. Despite my attempts to distance myself, my parents, siblings, Kyle, and Ashley tried to reach out. My mother sent a frantic voicemail urging me to return, and they even reported me as a missing person, though I don't believe any action was taken since I was officially 18. Shortly after, I met Dean, a 21-year-old who also resided in Phoenix, and had a complicated relationship with his family. We connected deeply and became friends quickly. Dean provided invaluable support during a time when I was struggling immensely, unsure of how to care for myself or navigate adulthood. He introduced me to his group of friends, helped me finish high school, and eventually, I moved in with him and his friends. He was there for me through my pain, and without his support, I doubt I could have persevered. After about a year, our friendship blossomed into a romantic relationship. Dean inherited some money from his grandfather, and decided to relocate across the country to a major city. Although we hadn't been together for long, he asked me to join him. Despite my reservations due to our emotional baggage and my own insecurities, I agreed. We moved, secured jobs, and worked hard to build a new life together. Shortly after my 21st birthday, we made the impulsive decision to get married. It was a wild and spontaneous choice, but we went through with it. I enrolled in university, and Dean helped me financially. He had started his own company, which began to take off, allowing us to live more comfortably. I balanced my studies with a part-time job to contribute financially. Our relationship had its ups and downs, but we managed to endure. After graduating from university, I began working at Dean's company, and together, we gradually expanded it. Looking back now, I realize that when we got married, I wasn't truly in love with Dean in the traditional sense. While I did love him, it wasn't the passionate love I had once imagined. However, Dean was unwavering in his support, always there for me without conditions. Today, I can't imagine loving him more, as he is undeniably the love of my life. We've been married for 12 years and have 2 sons, a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old. There are times when I regret leaving my family behind, but returning felt impossible. The pain of feeling like my parents chose Ashley and Kyle over me was overwhelming. When I was 25, I sought therapy to address my emotions, and last year, at the onset of the pandemic, I received an unexpected email from a 14-year-old girl named Evelyn. She introduced herself as my niece, the child of my older sister and Kyle's brother. Evelyn was aware of my existence and expressed a desire to meet me. Although hesitant at first, we began exchanging emails. It's important to note that she was unaware of the events that transpired 15 years ago, so our conversations remained innocent, focusing on her school interests and her understanding of my family. Through our correspondence, I discovered that I had 10 nieces and nephews. I also learned that Kyle and Ashley had married 4 years after I left, and had 2 sons in addition to Sarah. Throughout this time, my parents maintained their friendship with Kyle's and Ashley's families, continuing their lives as if I weren't there. Evelyn tried to discuss what had happened 15 years ago, but I didn't feel it was my place to explain the complexities of those events to her. Instead, I told her that relationships evolve and that life sometimes leads people down separate paths. We continued to communicate regularly for almost a year. In January, Evelyn shared how the pandemic had severely affected her family. My parents were struggling to keep their house, both of my brothers had lost their jobs, and the financial strain was causing tensions between her parents. Her awareness of these hardships, despite being only 14, weighed heavily on me. Coupled with the recent birth of my child, I was grappling with intense feelings of guilt and regret. My husband, Dean, was incredibly supportive, assuring me that he would stand by me no matter what. Our finances were stable, and the pandemic hadn't significantly impacted us financially, allowing us to live comfortably despite not being wealthy. After discussing the situation with Dean and considering the details I had learned, we decided to assist my parents with their housing situation. A week ago, we flew back to my home state, and I saw my parents for the first time in 15 years. The emotions were overwhelming, regrets, pains from the past, and lingering feelings of betrayal flooded through me. My parents seemed relieved to see me, but the day was anything but ordinary. We engaged in a lengthy conversation, and tentatively agreed to attempt a cordial relationship. However, it has been incredibly awkward, as so much time has passed, and my parents now feel like strangers. Dean and I stayed for a week, continuing our conversations, and I genuinely believed that we were making progress toward establishing a friendly yet distant relationship. However, my mother began insisting that I have a sit-down conversation with Kyle and Ashley, expressing her desire to restore things to how they were before. I told her that I refused to talk to them. While I had moved on, I had no remaining ties with Kyle and Ashley and did not want to reopen old wounds. I made it clear that I was willing to try to establish a relationship with them, because they were family and I had come to care for my niece. However, I emphasized that I wanted nothing to do with Kyle, Ashley, or their families. I did not demand that they end their friendships with others, but I stated that I did not want to reconnect with them. My mother labeled me as selfish, and insisted that I must try to heal our relationship. I responded that I would not negotiate, and that it was up to her to decide if she wanted to maintain a relationship with me. She agreed, but just 2 days later, I received a phone call from Kyle's mother. I had never given her my number, and she demanded that I talk with Kyle and Ashley, claiming that my return had strained their relationship and affected their emotional well-being. I hung up the call and confronted my mother, discovering that she had given Kyle's mother my number in an attempt to mend our family bonds. I told her that she was choosing Kyle and Ashley over me once again. My mother became emotional, crying and yelling that I was selfish, and that she merely wanted her family back. I hung up, and for days, I had no contact with any of them. Although my mother and Kyle's mother continued to call, I remained firm in my belief that prioritizing my well-being and the happiness of my supportive husband was the right choice. Dean had even stood up to my mother and defended me in front of my sons. As time passed, I began to have doubts about my decisions 15 years ago. I questioned whether I was truly being selfish for not making a more concerted effort to repair the relationships with my family. This introspection led me to feel lost, uncertain about the path I had taken, and desperately in need of advice or opinions on how to navigate this complex situation. Update. 2 years later. As of April 15, 2023, it's been 2 years since I shared my story, and many people have reached out asking for updates. Firstly, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to all the wonderful individuals who have sent me messages of support and encouragement. Your kind words mean the world to me. A lot has transpired in the past few years, some of which hasn't been entirely positive, but I'll keep this update concise to avoid making it excessively lengthy. In my original post, I hadn't mentioned my younger sister, whose relationship with our parents deteriorated after I left home. She had cut off contact with them as well. When she turned 20, I received her number from our older sister. Although our initial conversations were awkward, we gradually began speaking again. Given that 15 years had passed, we started to reconnect, albeit with some lingering anger from my side due to my departure. However, a lot has happened in her life, and it hasn't been easy. She now has her own toddler and a baby, and the presence of the children has helped us bond once more. She has become my best friend, and we talk every day. Regarding my other siblings, I maintain regular contact with both of my brothers, though we aren't particularly close. My relationship with my older sister has improved significantly, though last year we had a period of reduced communication, because she is married to Kyle's brother. This made it challenging for her to navigate the ongoing family drama. Thankfully, we are on good terms now, and I have developed a lovely relationship with my nieces and nephews. However, I chose not to attend my niece's birthday party, feeling that it would be too emotionally challenging for me at that time. Reconnecting with my parents has been particularly painful. Writing about it brings back all the negative emotions I experienced at 18. My mother didn't relent in her persistent efforts to persuade me to reconcile with Kyle and Ashley. Her constant calls became relentless, even after I had returned home. She subjected me to emotional blackmail, blaming me for not honoring her wishes and for the ensuing friendship and health problems. In June of last year, when I had my daughter, her distress escalated, resulting in over 100 calls a day and messages every 20 minutes. She would pester me with updates about people I had no interest in knowing about. When she began bothering Dean, I reached my breaking point. Afraid to block her, I decided to have a heartfelt conversation with my father. This was likely the first time in 17 years that we had a genuine, honest discussion. I was emotionally drained from caring for 3 children and dealing with everything that had transpired. I poured all my feelings and emotions onto him, unsure of what would happen next. Following our conversation, my father's involvement seemed to have an impact, as his calls to my mother gradually ceased. However, something else occurred in August when he filed for a divorce. My father and I maintain regular contact, but I doubt we will ever return to a normal relationship. My mother was devastated by the divorce, and her calls intensified, not just towards me but seemingly affecting others as well. In an attempt to escape her constant harassment, I changed my phone number. As of February, she has been unable to reach me. One of my brothers informed me that my mother is struggling with anxiety and depression and has lost many friends. I'm uncertain whether she still maintains any relationship with Kyle and Ashley's family. Given the hurtful things she said about me and my husband, whom she doesn't truly know, after 15 years of no contact, I regret not having a relationship with her. Attempting to salvage the remnants of our relationship feels like a waste of my emotional energy and pure torture. As for Kyle and Ashley, aside from the calls from Kyle's mother mentioned earlier, I have blocked her and haven't received any further communications from anyone else in their circle. I remain unaware of their current activities or whereabouts. In August, Kyle's brother brought me a letter supposedly written by Ashley, which I have yet to open. I'm torn between feeling that I've moved on and the curiosity about what she might have to say after so many years. However, reading the letter could potentially reopen old wounds, so I remain hesitant. Despite these challenges, I am doing okay now, cherishing my time with my children and Dean, who has been a steadfast pillar of support throughout this ordeal. My focus is on my immediate family, and I sincerely hope that this tumultuous chapter is finally behind me. **** New update, May 21st, 2023 ****. Dear everyone, I have no idea who might come across this, but in the past few months since my last update, I've received numerous messages filled with advice and supportive words. I can't adequately express my gratitude, but please know that your kind messages have meant a great deal to me. I attempt to reply to everyone, though it sometimes takes me a while due to the volume of messages and the number of questions posed. I plan to provide another update soon, but for now, I want to address some of the most common inquiries. I have not yet read the letter that Kyle's brother gave me, which was supposedly from Ashley. After deciding not to read it immediately, I began therapy again. Dean and I agreed that it would be best for me to hand the letter to my therapist, allowing him to determine when and if I am ready to read its contents. Since my last update, I haven't spoken to my mother. I have received messages on Facebook from both her and Ashley's mother, which is the first time Ashley's mother has reached out. I haven't read those messages, and I've since deactivated my Facebook account for the time being. Neither Kyle nor Ashley has attempted to contact me through any social media platforms. The only communication I am aware of is that Kyle had asked my brother for my address or phone number, but my brother refused to provide them. It was around this time that Ashley gave him the letter. Currently, Kyle is not in contact with his family, as they are separated, though he is uncertain whether they are officially divorced. Last week, my father was in town. He does not know my current address, and has never visited my home in almost 20 years. For the first time, we had an open and honest conversation. Admittedly, it was overwhelming, and I felt unwell for several days afterward, but it was a necessary discussion. I learned a great deal about my mother's past and the circumstances surrounding the revelation of Ashley's pregnancy 15 years ago. It's a lot to process, and I anticipate that I will need to continue therapy for an extended period to fully unpack these experiences. Regarding my younger sister, I want to clarify that she was not at fault for hiding the secret from me. She was just a teenager and knew it was wrong, but she was under immense pressure from our mother. After I left, her life became hellish, and our mother was insufferable, blaming her for numerous issues. Thank you once again for your support and encouragement. Many of you sent kind words to Dean as well, and he has read them. You are absolutely right, he is the best, and I genuinely believe I wouldn't be where I am today without him. Please cherish your families, if they are there for you in both good times and bad. Reach out to your parents and siblings, and tell them how much you love them. In moments like these, we often realize how much we have taken the good people in our lives for granted. Thank you, and I hope you are all doing well.